talk today about the symbols we find on prehistoric Southwest pottery and what they probably mean, possibly mean. I'm sure there's more meaning than we can figure out in the modern world with these vessels, what they meant by these symbols they painted on them. But some of them we have a pretty good idea because of the context and because of the Pueblo mythologies and Mimbres vessels, which are from the same area, a little bit further south. These vessels have a lot of symbols, a lot of stories illustrated, and these symbols bleed in. You'll see what I mean when we start looking at them. This vessel really launched the research, this little thunderbird vessel bringing rain to the village below. And we'll set the cameras up so we can see these a little bit better. But this pottery comes from Arizona, New Mexico, about Central State, below the Mogollon Rim. Most of the symbols we see are post 1300 AD. We do see a little bit of symbolism before that. Of course, the Mimbres vessels are earlier than that. But on the White Mountain Redwares and the Salado vessels, we see it around 1300 up to about, well, Spanish contact, 1538. I guess it would be. Coronado walked up the Little Colorado River. And we're going to talk about some of these symbols today. Let me move the camera around so we can see them a little better. Okay, let's start by talking about this beautiful little vessel with a thunderbird bringing rain to the village below. And we'll show you the different elements here, and I'll show you some other ones as we go along. The bird has a arrow point head, and it's kind of repeated in the back of the head. That means powerful or strong. Cloud wings, these unilateral terrace units are clouds. You notice the position of the wings are kind of juxtapositioned. That's a rain streamer. And I'll show you some other examples of that. It's basically like rainfall. If you've ever lived in the Southwest and you see it rain, a lot of times you'll see a cloud and you'll see this trail of rain coming off. That's a rain streamer, little water dots. The very interesting thing about this vessel is its village. We see thunderbirds once in a while, and we see these cloud units a lot. We see rain streamers, the terraced units of the Pueblo, and then the lines, rows of crops around the Pueblo. This is very much what a Pueblo would have looked like if you'd had a drone shot of one in 1350. But this thunderbird, I'm going to show you some other thunderbirds too, and another arrow point. I want to show you some arrow points first because this is interesting. Well, a lot of people would say, erroneously, that is a butterfly. Well, I'll show you some real butterflies. That's not a butterfly. That is a war symbol. It's basically two arrow points touching. That's war. And a very good example of it. And you see some water dots on that too. That could be a war about water rights. And we're still having wars about water rights in the Southwest today. This is a Cedar Creek polychrome. Dates quite late. On other vessels, these are out of context, of course, because they don't have the whole vessel, but a little rain streamer on that. There's another one, a little rain streamer. And this one clearly is a rain streamer and probably was connected to another thunderbird, very similar to the one we just saw. Rain streamer chased this around the site for decades, and we found this much of it. It's crudely glued together because it needs to be restored. It's basically a great big water dot in the middle, and we have clouds along the rim with little water dots. Those clouds are bringing rain. And beautifully on the outside of the bowl, look at that. Isn't that nice? Look at this. Earth, land, rows of crops, and the water dots falling down to the earth. That is just a beautiful little bowl. This is also a 4-mile polychrome. Dates about 1350, 1380. We did find a piece of that bowl 100 yards away and another piece 100 yards away. Went on for decades searching that out. Pines polychrome. It's an interesting vessel. It looks like 4-mile, but it's not 4-mile. It's a copy of 4-mile. People who didn't know how to make the 4-mile vessels wanted to make them, tried to make them, didn't know how. And they invented a whole new pottery type called pointed pines. See the bird in there? Okay. The head is profile. The tail feathers are off to one side, so it's probably attempted profile. The interesting thing about this is the square body form. That's not an accident. I mean, they could paint a realistic body form if they wanted to. That probably represents house. If you look at these Pueblo buildings, they're square and they have a roof entrance. And it would very much look like that. So this is probably bird clan, birdhouse, that combination of symbols. You notice all the charcoal on this. This bowl was in a room that burned, obviously. Now that charcoal could be removed a little bit more. You can see it's kind of rubbing off on my glove a little bit. We've run this through an enzyme wash once to remove some of it, but you got to be careful of over cleaning. I don't like to see over cleaning on anything that is an artifact or an antique, and I see it so often. I cannot tell you how many wonderful vessels and artifacts I've seen ruined by over cleaning. Kind of the classic Thunderbird. This is very stylized, but that's a Thunderbird. There's another one, same bowl. This is a Heshatuthlana polychrome. See the very fine lines. This followed St. John's temporally. This was a big communal bowl at one time. Now, swastikas, you see swastikas in the Southwest. You see them in Asia, too. And they have nothing to do with Nazis or anything. They have to do with, this swastika is made up of clouds. There's 4 clouds. The swastika represents the 4 directions, the 4 winds, north, south, east, west. In the Pueblo mythologies, particularly Hopi and Zuni, there's also center, up and down. There's down, up, center, north, south, east, west. This is north, south, east, west. This is rain all around, bringing the rain clouds all around. That's really what it is. Nice. What is a beauty. That's a St. John's polychrome. Yeah, here's some more little swastikas, different vessel. You notice they're backwards. Yeah. You see both forms. This is a checkerboard pattern. And I could show it to you in context. I'd have to look around, find the right vessel. It basically represents the night sky or the Milky Way. You'll see it on, if you look at the Mimbres material, you'll see a lot of bats with checkerboards in their wings. It's just the night sky. The Milky Way was used as a pathway for the warrior twins in their adventures. Little footprint. You see these a lot more often in petroglyphs than you do on pottery. A lot of people think that might mean a journey or some kind of migration. A little mountain lion on this one. Very stylized, and I'll tell you how we know that's a mountain lion. See the tail over the back like that? That long tail, that's his head. See that long tail over the back? If you've ever watched a mountain lion run, you'll see how they use that tail for balance. And when you see that long tail over the back, then you know it's a mountain lion. Got a little centipede here on the handle. See that little centipede? It's got a little misfiring on that, but this ladle has a centipede on the handle. I've got another centipede on this wonderful, just wonderful Heshatuthlana. Well, that's not Heshatuthlana, excuse me, that's Coquina, I think. Beautiful vessel. This pottery type was probably being used when Coronado walked by the Pueblo. But you see the head of the centipede? And there's the tail. And that went all the way around the bowl. And then, of course, they left that little gap, and that's your spirit break. This one is a Gila polychrome. We may have seen this one before. This is a little earlier than 1300. Wind. Now, that could be friendship or marriage, too. But in this case, it's probably swirly wind with all these rain symbols. We also see this square with the dots and the houses in the corner and the water ripples. This could be a water clan or water house. This one's fun. This is a little lizard. You see this little lizard painted on there? Little horned toad representation. It's a fun one.